So over the last 2 years during the pandemic, you guys have had 10 different names play under the Astralis banner, right? So those names obviously Device Dupree, Magisclave, Zipex, Yugi, achat, Bobsky, Lucky, and you even had Snappy stand in.
And Blame and Config.
Blame and Config too. Yes, yeah. They're at the tail end of this. Okay. So yeah, I guess a couple more than 10. This happened because you had the 6-man roster experiment. Obviously, you and Zip went out for a short period of time. You've had a kid, congratulations, so everyone's taken some time off and things have chopped and changed in Astralis a lot over the last 2 years. My first question about this is, for both of you, because you've both been in the team with a lot of different iterations of rosters, has there already been a lot of chopping and changing of roles and positions, other than the AWPing situation, just in terms of everything else? Like, is it pretty frequent how you play new positions and trying new things?
I think mainly right now we have like me and Blame F doing new positions. Me and Blame had the exact same positions on both the CT side and on the T side. And I think that was one of the reasons why we changed me to the AWP role. We wanted to have me in the map control with Blame F in the map control and also with Config, because he has always been used to that and you don't want to play him on one side of the map alone. So right now we have Blame F taking the roles that me and him had on the CT side, and I am taking the roles me and him had on the T side.
Basically, as I was watching all like the demos back and looking at the numbers and stuff, that's the thing that made the most sense from the way I was looking at it. You're used to being central, seeing what's going on in the map makes sense as an in-game leader. Blame was obviously doing similar things and doing aggressive lurking maneuvers to be able to call from those. Very similar to stuff we've seen you do. And then when this AWPing thing happened, right? When you first joined the team, 26th of July, right? You were AWPing. I've got the numbers here, right? So I've broken your time in Astralis up into 3 key groups. There's a couple of angles with this, right? The first one, Lucky, you come in as an AWPer, then you find yourself having to do a rifling role on LAN in an arena, right? And then you go back to AWPing. Do you think these different stages, like going from where you were now to playing in Tier 1, do you think they've been a positive or a negative on your game overall?
As I'm feeling of right now, I would say definitely positive. They've obviously helped me evolve as a player. I've learned so many new things, played new roles I would never have played, even in the other team, I think. Over the last couple of months, I think I've gained more confidence than ever on this team.
Do you look at it the same way? Like the fact that he was so young coming in and then playing the AWP initially, got a little taste of that, obviously lots of things changing around. Then you took over the AWPing and he had to experience anchoring on CT sides. And do you think that's going to help him in the future of Lucky as a player?
Lucky had a hard time joining the team, to be honest. And we talked together about this, about you being on so many different lineups in Astralis in the first, how many lineups was it? It was crazy.
First 3 months was 3 different lineups.
Yeah, 3 different lineups in the first 3 months in Astralis. That's not an easy task when you come in as the youngest guy and have to take over for a guy like Device, who has been one of the best players for so many years, right? So I think it was really tough for Lucky to do really well in that amount of time.
Okay, cool, that's perfect. So I guess we can transition from this little point into the Blame F config joining era, right? And that's where you picked up the AWP, and now we've seen that it go back the other way, and you were just talking about those roles before, but I have a couple of like bits and bobs here I jumped into where I watched Blame F's pathing on all the maps in complexity, and then I watched all his pathing on all the maps on Astralis. It's almost basically 1 for 1 what he was doing on complexity, he was doing in Astralis. This is a question for you. When you bring Blame and Config in, and they're 2 very strong players, was that the intention to try and build the new Astralis around the skeleton of Blame F and Config and how they like to approach the game?
I think I wanted to give them an easy time in the beginning. I wanted them to feel confident to bring some of their things into our stuff, because I had to do a lot of new stuff as well. So if I had to like do everything and think about everything while being the AWP player, I think it would be a tough time for me. So I think that's why we also tried to bring some of the complexity things inside our game. Now we're trying to bring more of the Astralis things that I want to implement into the game.
Dust 2, previously you were like the A rotator, right? Like you'd help set up the long guy, you'd make sure your mid-long AWP is all good, and then you'd rotate back. And that's a central position that a lot of in-game leaders play, because you can read the play, you know what the utility means. Normally you've watched more demos. Yeah. So when you experienced not being in that role, right, you went over to play B with Config, right? You had Zip, Anchor, Long, you were open, and then Config over to B with you. When you have to change a position like that, does it affect the way that you're able to have impact in a game as an in-game leader?
For sure, for sure. I think one of the reasons I was a really good CT player before was that I was really good at reading the game and when to go offensive, when to stay defensive. And of course you will still do that in my positions, but as an anchor, which I am right now on most maps, it's really tough to do because you have to let the other guys decide as well. You can't be like an anchor and say, I want to go do this, and or try to say, Sip, you go do this while I hold A. Like that's not, I don't think that's the right thing to do. So I think I gave up a lot of responsibility to Blame F, especially on the CT side, because he's now the rotating guy on most maps. And I don't have a difficult time doing this because I actually think that Blame F is a really good rotating guy. I had to get used to my roles, I can feel that. I think that I had a tough time doing it because while I was anchoring, I was looking at the radar all the time, and that's what you do as the rotating guy. But you should just focus more on your own bomb side. How do I hold this? If they come to my place, what do I do to win? I don't have to think about what they're doing on A when I'm standing on B, right? And I was having a hard time doing that, but I think I'm starting to learn it now.
Decision behind that, you feel that it's more important on the T side for you to be micromanaged for the middle of the pack?
If I had to be the in-game leader, I told Blame F and Ave that I think it's best for me to be where it's happening. I want to see what is going on because it can be tough to just stay inside the lobby on nuke and people are doing things outside. You don't really know what's happening. I want Blame F to be a good T player, but he has to change up some stuff, and that's the same thing I had to do on CT. So me and him had to change up a bit, and I think that's why it could be a slow start for us in some games, but I think we're getting used to it more and more.
And one last one here for you, Lucky, just a quick one. Are you happy to be back on the AWP?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
That's where I feel home. So yeah.
All right, that's awesome. That was great. Really good answers, boys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.